Okay, we are continuing in Chapter 4, Conditioning in the Manipulated Mind by Denise Wynn. And this is video number, I don't know, is this 4? I lose track. 3 or 4. Anyway, it'll say so in the title line anyway. Behavior therapy is about conscious manipulation of behavior. It is behaved on the principle that maladaptive behavior patterns caused by faulty original conditioning can be replaced by better, more functional ones. Suppose, for instance, that a mother brings her child for help to a clinical psychologist because a little girl has tremendous temper tantrums and screaming bouts whenever she is put to bed at night. What happens, she tells the psychologist, is that the girl is kissed goodnight and is left in her room. As soon as she is alone, she starts to scream. After a while, the noise becomes so ear-splitting that the mother fears for the child's safety and the reactions of the neighbors, and so she goes to comfort the girl and try to coax her to sleep. The psychologist tells her that, unwittingly, she has conditioned the child to learn that cuddles and sympathy are the reward for making a terrible noise. The screaming behavior has been reinforced by the fact that affection and attention are always eventually forthcoming. The reinforcement has to be extinguished. The mother is told to ignore the girl's screams, no matter how long they go on. After a few nights, the child will cease to associate screaming with attention. Instead, she receives affection from her mother in the morning. The more affection, the quicker she went to sleep the night before. A new, more desirable pattern of the behavior is then set up. A behavior therapy technique called desensitization has been found effective for the treatment of many phobias. If a person suffers from severe agoraphobia, the therapist requires the patient to devise a list of situations that she finds frightening, working up from mildly alarming to utterly terrifying. Number 1 on a patient's hierarchy might be walking down the front path. Number 10 might be shopping in a crowded supermarket. Having first taught the patient relaxation techniques, the therapist then takes her up the hierarchy step by step to accompanying her in each of the named situations or by asking her to imagine them. The patient is required to apply the relaxation techniques when she starts feeling anxious. What is happening here is that the patient is learning not to reinforce her fear by avoidance of the situation, but by going through it and relaxing, to reinforce the realization that having walked to the gate or shopped in the supermarket, nothing terrible happens. A similar technique is called flooding. Instead of gradually working through situational fears, the patient faces his worst fears all at once. The traumatic experience is repeated until the fears are overcome. The most controversial form of behavior therapy is aversion therapy, where unpleasant associations are forged with the undesirable behaviors concerned. For instance, a pedophile may be shown slides of attractive young children while at the same time receiving an electric shock. That'll teach her. Sorry. The idea is that the patient will eventually cease to associate young children with pleasurable sexual feelings. I can't help but think about young Alex from A Clockwork Orange. Remember that? Remember that movie, Clockwork Orange? Alex, he gets dragged in and they're going to try this new experimental therapy on him, and he goes along with it so he can get out of jail quicker, and they like prop his eyes open, and they had like these really horrible scenes in front of him, and then at the same time they were playing Beethoven the Ninth or something, his favorite, and that was really funny. Where was I? Okay, it is not a method that has had signal success in deterring deviance of any description and has incurred much outrage from those concerned by behavior therapy's potential as an agent of control. Those psychologists who defend it claim that it can only be effective if the patient is motivated to change and therefore complies with the requirements of the treatment. Thus, it is not coercion. However, some mental patients, it has been pointed out, may be motivated to comply not because they want to change, but because they fear their discharge date may depend on it. just like with poor little Alex. Ethical factors aside, aversion therapy is not especially successful because it works by punishment, not reward, and punishment can often have undesirable effects. A child who is punished for smoking may not stop smoking, as might be presumed if punishment were seen as effective negative reinforcement. Instead, he may take care not to smoke where he can get caught. Or he may stop smoking but harbor deep resentment and hostility instead, which manifest themselves in other ways. As masochists may attest, those who have been punished by the cane at school have sometimes grown to associate punishment with sexual pleasure. And, as mentioned earlier, if punishment is the only source of attention a child can command, it can become a positive reinforcer for undesirable actions. According to the principles of conditioning, behavior is not learned when rewards are not forthcoming to reinforce it. Therefore, ignoring bad attention-getting behavior can be more effective than punishing it. Skinner, the modern-day arch behaviorist, has been accused of reducing human behavior to a theory of cause and effect, a theory which, if not as simplistic as Watson's, still ignores the part that emotions play in governing people's actions. Skinner, however, does incorporate feelings into his theory. One feels confident, he says, because successful performance reinforces the expectation of successful performance. One feels happy because pleasant events act as reinforcement for happiness. One feels sad because of a lack of such reinforcement, such as attention from other people, success at work, etc. On a loftier level, acts of altruism occur because the honor and respect that accrue from them act as reinforcement for doing them, and therefore make them not altruistic at all. Different reinforcers work for different people, so one may commit a crime because money is what counts. Another may be law-abiding because respect is what counts. Skinner's is an extreme view, but whatever one's perspective on the degree to which reinforcements condition behavior, it is clear that conditioning does play a powerful part. Its effects are perhaps most long-lasting when they are most unconscious. A prisoner in Korea would know his cooperation was being bought if he was offered extra cigarettes or special privileges as a reward for going along with the enemy. He might be less likely to realize the power of a brief, unexpected smile or kind word from his jailer. Blatant shaping of behavior by rewards may condition a person not to perform the desired behavior but to the expectation of reward itself. A Psychology Today article by Kenneth Goodall recounted how psychologists in Kansas tried to help a mother change the behavior of her two daughters who regularly left their beds unmade, their clothes lying on the floor, and the rooms generally in a mess. The girls agreed that they ought to change their behavior, so they cooperated in a system whereby they received a small amount of money every day that they tidied up after themselves and a bonus at the end of the week if they hadn't faulted on a single day. Their habits changed literally overnight. After 2 months of this system, they were told that they would get their money regardless of how they behaved. The conditioned tidy behavior again disappeared overnight and they reverted to sloppy ways. And we'll stop it right there. I think that was video number 4 of the Manipulated Mind. And if I made a mistake with that, hopefully you'll forgive me and we'll pick up in the next video. Stick with me. Don't go away. Tune in.